until now, you unfortunately don't have any projects in Moscow yet. I understand that was somehow related with the relations probably with previous mayor, whatever. What's happening now in Moscow, and what do you think?
Well, for today we have 3 shopping centers in Moscow, about 150,000 square meters GLA each of them, and we have an urgent need to increase. I can say on behalf of IKEA Retail, our sister company, they could immediately open at least, I think, 3 more stores in Moscow.
In Moscow, you mean inside of Ring
in the
Road?
region.
In the region.
In the region. Yes.
Yep.
So I think there is a sound underlying economics if you look to the net purchasing powers of these adjacent cities that we can see here. And I also think that a lot of consumers, they are spending a lot of time in their cars today, going into the shopping centers. So if we can diversify that and put that out a little bit more in the regions, we can also make the life for our consumers a bit more easy.
But if you would have a chance to build IKEA or Mega Mall on the 3rd ring road of Moscow, would you do that?
I think it would be a very palatable opportunity for us, yes.
Cities now don't let people to build huge shopping centers. Do you think it is a right approach, or it is, as a developer and a retailer, you think it is you would build? But what if you would be decision maker on their side, on governor's side? Would you do that? Because the main idea why they do it, why they limit this construction, it is traffic.
I think it's the same challenge in every country. Even when I was in the US recently in San Diego, they have a factor where they are measuring how much the congestion is, and the infrastructure must go in line and develop together with it. So I can also understand from the authority sides that they want to do this as a controlled development, not further to create even more congestions.
What do you think about the Moscow region market? It has already been developing rapidly, but is it going to continue developing? What we see on the example of the existing shopping malls, the traffic is increasing. The traffic, here I'm speaking not about transport, but the visitors' traffic. And everything is aimed at providing people with all services and all opportunities where they live. Now we are focusing on the region because it's not easy to build anything now in Moscow, and we see what's happening with all projects that are ongoing in Moscow, and also people do not want to drive outside, and they are happy, they would be happy to go to a shopping mall that is the nearest to them. You mean that people do not want to go from the region to Moscow itself, to the center? I believe that Moscow region has great potential, and we are very optimistic about the development of retail property there. And we acquired several land plots, 8 of them in different towns in the region. And we are planning to develop them. Have you felt over the last year that other developers started leaving Moscow as well? It seems that developers cannot find much in Moscow, and they are entering Moscow region now. I believe that the best approach for a Moscow developer is to cross the main ring road and to start developing land plots in the region. Now, can you describe to us what formats do we see in the region? I believe that the best places are situated on motorways near to railway stations, because the region doesn't have an underground. The format would depend on the traffic of customers, on the population and other conditions. I believe that the Moscow region formats are very diversified. So there will be different formats, and a number of factors will determine the format to be chosen, to be selected for each specific town. And if Moscow developers whether Moscow developers will move to the region. Yes, they will. From the point of view of competition, to us, maybe it's not very good. But for the development of the region, is extremely good. Marina, you had huge projects, plans in Moscow, but what do you feel now? Of course, we have a lot of projects in Moscow as well, and they're still ongoing, and some projects, very large-scale projects, and sometimes frozen by the administration, are there in Moscow. Do you believe that they're going to be finalized? They are still going to be built, because Moscow doesn't need huge shopping malls. They should be comfortable. They should be not too big, so that they would save time, would help people to save time. And ocean cities are very convenient, very suitable for Moscow. And if Moscow has any other locations or any possibilities to add some more shopping malls like that, it will be great. But as far as region is concerned, I have been feeling lately, especially over the last 3 to 6 months, I see huge demand to build new shopping malls. People would like to see some new developments in the region of Moscow, near to the infrastructure. But what about the remote areas of the region? My first reaction is, show me the location. If there is a town that has a population of 200,000 to 300,000 people, and there is a well-positioned shopping mall near to crossroads or near to big motorway, then it might be a much better location, a much better option than building a similar shopping mall in a city with million population.
Where I can see the potential for retail real estate is small cities. Cities with population between 300,000 inhabitants and 500,000.
Being a developer, what do you think? How do you feel about smaller towns, 200,000, 300,000 people? I think that we shouldn't be frightened by them. Smaller formats are going to develop widely, but they will generate flows of customers, and of course fashion galleries are going to develop around them. When we should not compare Mytishi near Moscow with Nizhny Novgorod or Ivanovo, because certain tenants would not work there. It will be developing in a very different way. So everything should be balanced. But I believe that fashion gallery will survive if we have sort of an average hyper market, not 10 to 12,000 square meters, but 4 to 6,000 square meters, and it will generate sufficient customers' flows.
What do you think about the smaller cities? What is the smallest size of the city you believe this format or maybe other formats will survive?
It's really not the exact number of the city that is important of inhabitants as you had, because what we are looking on is obviously the catchment area. But I think it's also an advantage in Russia today to think in these terms, because people tell us today, okay, what you did right in IKEA, you started 10 years ago. And maybe we are in that position today when we are talking about the medium-sized cities to work in.